Lucky American coins. Imagine finding an old United States 1-cent coin in a jar, a drawer, a box of loose change, or perhaps in an inherited collection, and then realizing that the tiny copper-colored piece in your hand might be connected to one of the most fascinating stories in American numismatics. The year is 1979, and the coin is a Lincoln cent, a denomination that most people would normally overlook because 1 cent seems almost worthless in the modern economy. Yet collectors know that the story of a coin is not always measured by its face value. A coin can carry history, artistry, minting technology, manufacturing mistakes, unusual varieties, condition, rarity, and the excitement of discovery. When errors and unusual characteristics enter the picture, a simple 1-cent coin can sometimes become much more interesting and potentially much more valuable than its 1-cent denomination suggests. The 1979 Lincoln cent is especially interesting because it belongs to a period when the United States Mint was producing enormous quantities of cents for everyday commerce. Millions upon millions of these coins entered circulation, traveled through cash registers, vending machines, banks, pockets, purses, jars, and drawers, and eventually disappeared into collections. The majority of surviving 1979 cents are common coins, and many examples are worth only their face value, or a small premium depending on condition. But that does not mean every 1979 cent is ordinary. Collectors carefully examine these coins for genuine mint errors, unusual varieties, proof characteristics, exceptional condition, and other features that can separate one example from another. This is where the excitement begins. If you have a 1979 1-cent coin, you may immediately wonder whether it is a rare error coin, whether it came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, whether it is a circulation strike or a proof, whether the color is brown, red-brown, or red, and whether its condition is good enough to attract serious collector interest. You may also hear dramatic claims online suggesting that a certain 1979 penny is worth hundreds of thousands, millions, or even hundreds of millions of dollars. One of the most sensational figures sometimes associated with online coin stories is $237 million. But before anyone starts imagining a fortune hidden in an old coin jar, it is extremely important to separate documented numismatic facts from internet rumors and exaggerated claims. There is no credible auction record establishing a normal 1979 Lincoln cent as a $237 million coin. No authenticated public sale supports the idea that an ordinary 1979 penny, even one with a typical minor error, has actually sold for $237 million. A figure like $237 million should therefore be treated as a sensational or hypothetical claim rather than a confirmed market value. The real value of a 1979 Lincoln cent depends on the exact coin, the mint mark, the type of error or variety, the condition, the color designation, the authenticity, the quality of preservation, and the strength of collector demand at the time of sale. That correction does not make the 1979 Lincoln cent boring. In fact, the opposite is true. The real story is far more interesting because it teaches us how coins are made, how errors happen, how collectors identify genuine mistakes, how grading works, and why two coins that look almost identical at first glance can have dramatically different values. The standard 1979 Lincoln cent has a diameter of approximately 19 millimeters and a standard weight of about 3.11 grams. It has a plain edge rather than a reeded edge. The composition used for Lincoln cents from this period was primarily copper, with approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc. These specifications are important because they provide collectors with a starting point for authentication. If a supposed 1979 cent has a dramatically incorrect weight, unusual dimensions, or a strange metallic appearance, that does not automatically prove it is rare. It may indicate damage, environmental exposure, alteration, plating, or possibly a genuine mint error. Determining which explanation is correct requires careful examination. The 1979 cent belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series. The obverse features the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above his head appears the word Liberty, while the date 1979 is located toward the lower right area of the obverse. The phrase "In God We Trust" appears across the upper portion of the coin. The designer's initials, VDB, which are associated with Victor David Brenner, are found near the bottom of the design in the area close to Lincoln's shoulder. The reverse carries the Lincoln Memorial design that was used on cents beginning in 1959 and continuing until 2008. The Lincoln Memorial reverse is one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. At the center is an image of the Lincoln Memorial Building, and above it is the inscription United States of America. The denomination 1 cent appears below the building, while the motto E Pluribus Unum appears above the memorial. The reverse design was created by Frank Gasparo and became an important part of the Lincoln cent's visual identity during the second half of the 20th century. The symbols and inscriptions on the coin are not random decorations. They represent the identity and purpose of the United States coinage system. Liberty represents the nation's ideals, while "In God We Trust" is the official national motto that appears on U.S. currency. E Pluribus Unum, meaning out of many, one, reflects the idea of unity. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln connects the coin to one of the most significant presidents in American history, a leader remembered especially for preserving the Union during the Civil War and for the Emancipation Proclamation. The choice of Lincoln for the 1 cent coin was historically significant. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. It became the first regular United States coin to feature the portrait of a real historical person. Victor David Brenner's portrait became one of the most enduring images in American numismatics. Decades later, the 1979 cent continued that tradition, connecting an ordinary coin used in everyday transactions to a much larger story about American history. By 1979, the Lincoln cent had already been circulating for 70 years. The United States had changed dramatically since the first Lincoln cents were introduced. The country had experienced 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the rise of automobiles and aviation, the space age, the civil rights movement, and enormous technological and social transformations. The 1979 penny therefore represents more than the year printed on its surface. It belongs to a period when the United States was moving through another major era of economic and technological change. The late 1970s were a fascinating time for American coinage. Inflation was affecting the economy, and the purchasing power of the 1 cent denomination was declining. The United States Mint was producing enormous numbers of cents to satisfy public demand. At the same time, the government was considering changes to coin compositions and designs as the cost of producing coins became an increasingly important issue. The 1979 Lincoln cent was still made using the traditional bronze composition of approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc. This is important because the composition changed in later years. In 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned the Lincoln cent to a copper-plated zinc composition for regular circulating cents. Therefore, a 1979 cent belongs to the final years of the long-running bronze composition era that began decades earlier. For collectors, this creates an interesting historical dividing line. A 1979 cent is not simply an old penny. It is part of the final period before the major composition change that occurred in 1982. That does not automatically make every 1979 cent rare, but it gives the coin historical importance within the Lincoln cent series. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 6.018 billion 1979 Lincoln cents according to PCGS CoinFacts. The Denver Mint produced approximately 4.139 billion 1979 D cents. These enormous production figures explain why ordinary examples are so common today. When billions of coins are produced, many survive. Some are heavily worn, some are damaged, some are stored in jars, and some remain in surprisingly high condition because they were never heavily circulated. The sheer number of coins produced also helps explain why the word era is so important. A common date can become much more interesting if a coin contains a genuine minting mistake. But collectors must be careful because not everything unusual is a mint error. A genuine mint error occurs during the manufacturing process at the mint. The mistake can happen when a planchette is prepared, when a blank is fed into a press, when dies strike the coin, or when the finished coin is handled during production. Some errors are dramatic and immediately visible. Others are subtle and require magnification, precise measurements, or professional authentication. One of the most famous categories of errors is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank or planchette is not properly centered between the dies when the coin is struck. Instead of producing a perfectly centered design, the resulting coin has part of the design shifted toward one side. The amount of off-center displacement can vary. A coin that is only slightly off-center may have little additional value, while a dramatic off-center strike that remains fully identifiable and shows a significant percentage of missing design can be much more desirable. If you are examining a 1979 cent for an off-center error, you should look closely at the position of the date. The date is especially important because an off-center coin with a fully visible date is generally easier for collectors to identify and authenticate. A dramatic error that causes the date to disappear completely may still be collectible, but the ability to identify the exact year becomes more difficult. In many cases, collectors prefer errors where the date and mint mark remain visible. Another type of error is a broad strike. A broad strike can occur when the collar that normally restrains the planchette during striking is missing or improperly functioning. The coin can spread outward beyond the normal diameter, producing a wider and flatter appearance. A genuine broad strike should not simply be confused with a coin that has been damaged after leaving the mint. Mechanical damage, squeezing, bending, or flattening can create shapes that resemble errors but are actually post-mint damage. Then there are clipped planchets. A clipped planchette occurs when a portion of the metal blank is missing because of a problem during the blanking process. A curved clip can create a distinctive crescent-shaped missing area. Other types of clips exist as well. The key to identifying a genuine clip is understanding how the metal behaves during the minting process. A true clip often shows specific characteristics around the missing section that are difficult to reproduce accidentally after the coin leaves the mint. Another possibility is a double strike. This happens when the coin is struck more than once, sometimes with the second strike occurring in a different position. The result can be a dramatic overlapping design. Collectors distinguish between true double dies and double strikes because they are created through different mechanisms. A double die is a die variety created during the die-making process. It occurs when the die itself receives multiple impressions that are not perfectly aligned. When that die is used to strike coins, the resulting coins can show doubling in specific design elements. A true double die is different from machine doubling, which is generally caused by movement or mechanical effects during striking and is usually much less valuable. This distinction is critical for anyone searching for valuable 1979 pennies. The internet is full of photographs showing supposedly doubled letters and numbers. Many of these examples are not genuine doubled dies. Machine doubling, die deterioration, strike doubling, and post-mint damage can all create confusing appearances. A collector who wants to determine whether a 1979 cent has a valuable double die variety should compare the coin with known references, and when necessary, consult an experienced numismatist or professional grading service. Another fascinating category is the die crack. As dies are used repeatedly, they can develop cracks or breaks. These defects can transfer to the coins they strike. A coin with a prominent die crack may attract collector interest particularly if the crack is large, unusual, or part of a recognized variety. But again, not every die crack is extremely valuable. The market determines value based on rarity, visibility, demand, and the overall appeal of the piece. A die break can be even more dramatic. When part of a die breaks away, the resulting coin can show a raised area where the missing portion of the die affected the strike. Collectors sometimes refer to dramatic die breaks by colorful nicknames, especially when the shape resembles a recognizable object. These coins can be fascinating because each one records a specific moment in the life of a minting die. A 1979 Lincoln cent can also be examined for struck-through errors. A struck-through error occurs when foreign material comes between the die and planchette during striking. The resulting coin can show an area where the design is weak, missing, or distorted. The appearance depends on what material was involved and how it interacted with the dies. Some struck-through errors are dramatic, while others are subtle. A small amount of grease or debris may cause a weak design element. A larger obstruction can create a more obvious missing portion. Collectors generally evaluate these errors based on their size, location, clarity, and authenticity. Another possibility is a lamination error. This type of problem can occur when impurities or structural issues within the metal cause a layer to separate or peel. On a copper alloy coin, a lamination can create a distinctive flaking appearance. However, environmental damage and corrosion can sometimes mimic lamination. Careful examination is necessary. The 1979 cent may also be encountered with damage that is mistakenly described as a mint error. This is one of the biggest challenges in coin collecting. Coins spend years in circulation, and during that time they can be dropped, scratched, scraped, bent, heated, chemically altered, or exposed to harsh environments. For example, a coin with a strange color is not necessarily an error. Copper naturally changes color over time. A 1979 cent may appear bright red, reddish-brown, or brown depending on its preservation and exposure. Collectors and grading services often use designations such as BN for brown, RB for red-brown, and Rhode for red. A coin that has retained a strong original red color can be more desirable in high grades. But color alone does not prove rarity. Some people artificially treat coins to make them appear brighter. Others clean them with chemicals or abrasive materials. Such alterations can reduce collector value rather than increase it. Cleaning is particularly dangerous for valuable coins. A person may think that an old penny will become more valuable if it is polished until it shines. In reality, professional collectors generally prefer original surfaces. Cleaning can leave hairlines, scratches, unnatural brightness, or other signs that reduce the coin's desirability. This is why the best advice for anyone who discovers a potentially valuable 1979 cent is simple: do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not scratch it. Do not attempt to remove discoloration. Do not apply chemicals. Preserve the coin exactly as you found it until its authenticity and condition can be evaluated. Condition is one of the most important factors in coin valuation. A circulated 1979 cent may show wear on Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, and other high points. The reverse may have wear on the Lincoln memorial and surrounding lettering. A coin that spent years in circulation may have scratches, dents, discoloration, and contact marks. A coin that was never circulated can potentially qualify for a mint state grade. Professional grading companies use numerical scales to describe condition. The Sheldon grading scale commonly used in modern American numismatics runs from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing better preservation. A coin graded MS-60 is technically uncirculated, but may have significant marks or other imperfections. As the grade increases, the standards become more demanding. An MS-65 coin is significantly more desirable than a typical circulated example. At the very highest grades, tiny imperfections can make a major difference. This is especially important for the 1979 Philadelphia Lincoln cent. Because billions were produced, ordinary examples are plentiful. The real challenge is finding exceptional examples at the top end of the grading scale. PCGS notes that the 1979 P cent is very common up to around MS66, while higher grades become increasingly scarce. PCGS lists a documented auction record of $5,463 for a 1979 Philadelphia red cent graded MS68. That is an impressive price for a 1-cent coin, but it is still nowhere near $237 million. The 1979 D cent tells a similar story. Denver produced more than 4.1 billion examples. Most are common, but exceptional high-grade pieces can command premiums. PCGS records an auction result of $3,995 for a 1979 D red cent graded MS67 Plus Road. Again, this demonstrates how condition can transform the market value of a common coin, while also showing the difference between real documented prices and sensational internet claims. The 1979 S cent is another part of the story. Coins bearing an S mint mark were produced at San Francisco, including proof coins made specifically for collectors. Proof coins are struck using specially prepared dies and planchets, often producing sharper details and reflective fields. The 1979 S cent is known with different reverse varieties, including Type 1 and Type 2 designs. These are varieties rather than errors, and they should not automatically be described as mint errors. The distinction between a variety and an error is fundamental. An error is generally an unintended mistake that occurs during production. A variety is a recurring difference in the design or die preparation that may appear on multiple coins. Both can be collectible, but they are not the same thing. The 1979 S-proof cents are particularly interesting because collectors study the mint mark and other design characteristics. Some varieties are more desirable than others. But again, the presence of an S mint mark does not automatically mean a coin is worth thousands or millions. This brings us back to the question of the supposed $237 million value. How could such a claim appear online? In the age of social media, short videos, blogs, and sensational headlines, coin values can become exaggerated very quickly. Someone may publish a hypothetical value, a mistaken auction figure, or a fabricated claim, and then other websites repeat it without verification. A coin described as worth $237 million may actually have an ordinary value of a few cents, a few dollars, or perhaps a higher amount if it has a genuine and rare error. The number itself does not create value. The market creates value through actual transactions between collectors and buyers. In numismatics, a credible valuation should be supported by evidence. Auction records are particularly important because they show what someone actually paid for a specific coin. Professional grading records can also provide useful information. A coin's certification number, grade, variety attribution, and auction history can help establish credibility. If someone claims that a 1979 penny is worth $237 million, the first question should be, where is the documented sale? Which auction house sold it? What was the date? Which grading service authenticated it? What was the certification number? Was the coin actually sold, or is the number simply being repeated online? Without evidence, a giant valuation should be treated with skepticism. That does not mean that a 1979 era coin cannot be valuable. It means that the value must be based on the specific characteristics of the actual coin. Consider an imaginary example. Suppose someone finds a 1979 Lincoln cent that weighs significantly less than the normal 3.11 grams. The owner might immediately think, this must be a rare error. But several possibilities must be considered. The coin may have been damaged. It may have been chemically altered. It could have been clipped. It could have a genuine wrong planchette error. It could have suffered from corrosion. It could even be a counterfeit. The scale is only the beginning of the investigation. If the coin weighs less than expected, its diameter should be measured. Its thickness can also be examined. The metal composition may be tested using professional equipment. The edge should be inspected for signs of alteration. The surfaces should be examined under magnification. A genuine wrong planchette error can be extremely interesting because it means a coin was struck on a planchette intended for a different denomination or composition. Such errors are rare because the mint's production process normally separates planchettes by size and denomination. When a wrong planchette enters the wrong press, the result can be a coin with an unusual combination of design and physical characteristics. For a 1979 cent, a genuine wrong planchette error would need careful authentication. The coin's weight, dimensions, composition, and striking characteristics would all matter. A dramatic difference from normal specifications could increase interest, but only if the coin is proven genuine. Another fascinating possibility is a transitional error. This occurs when a coin is struck using an old composition after the official change to a new composition, or vice versa. Transitional errors are often highly collectible because they connect two different stages of the minting process. The 1979 date is important in this context because it predates the 1982 transition from the traditional bronze composition to copper-plated zinc for regular Lincoln cents. This means a 1979 cent with unusual composition could raise interesting questions, but collectors must be careful. A lighter coin is not automatically a transitional error, and a coin with a different appearance is not automatically made of a different metal. Professional testing is the only reliable way to determine composition. One of the most exciting moments for a coin collector is discovering an unusual feature and realizing that the object deserves further investigation. But the process should be slow and methodical. The coin should be photographed from multiple angles. The obverse and reverse should be documented. The edge should be photographed. The weight should be measured with a precise scale. The diameter should be checked with calipers. The collector should also record the mint mark, if present. A 1979 cent without a mint mark was produced at Philadelphia. A D mint mark indicates Denver, while an S mint mark generally indicates San Francisco, especially for proof production. Understanding the mint of origin helps narrow down the coin's identity and possible varieties. It is also important to remember that mint marks can sometimes be damaged or obscured. A missing mint mark is not automatically an error. On a 1979 Philadelphia cent, there is normally no mint mark. A person unfamiliar with U.S. coinage might see the absence of a letter and assume something went wrong, but in this case it is completely normal. This is a perfect example of why knowledge matters more than excitement. The most valuable coin discoveries often begin with curiosity, but they are confirmed through research. The Lincoln cent itself is an extraordinary piece of American history. For generations, Americans have handled Lincoln cents without thinking about their historical importance. Children have saved them in piggy banks. Parents have tossed them into drawers. Businesses have returned them as change. Travelers have carried them across the country. Some have been buried underground for decades. Others have been placed into carefully organized collections. Every coin has a story about where it traveled. A 1979 cent could have been in a cash register in New York City. It might have been used to buy a newspaper in Chicago. It could have traveled through a grocery store in California or been carried in a pocket in Texas. It could have spent decades in circulation before finally being removed from commerce. When collectors examine a coin, they are not only looking at metal. They are looking at a physical object that survived time. The 1979 cent also represents the changing economics of the 1 cent denomination. When the coin was minted, 1 cent had greater purchasing power than it does today. The penny was still a normal and necessary part of everyday transactions. Over the decades, inflation reduced the real purchasing power of the cent, yet the coin remained an important part of American commerce. The Lincoln cent's continued existence is itself a remarkable story. Many countries have eliminated their lowest denominations, but the United States has continued producing the penny. This has created ongoing debates about production costs, usefulness, and the future of the denomination. For collectors, however, the penny remains one of the most accessible entry points into numismatics. Almost anyone can begin collecting Lincoln cents. A person does not need thousands of dollars to start. They can simply examine coins from pocket change. That accessibility is one reason why stories about valuable pennies attract so much attention. The possibility of finding something rare in ordinary change is exciting. It creates the feeling that history and treasure might be hiding in plain sight. But a responsible collector must understand probability. Billions of 1979 cents were produced. Most are not rare. Most do not contain dramatic errors. Most are worth little beyond face value. The possibility of a valuable discovery exists, but it is not the same as a guarantee. The best approach is to learn the difference between common characteristics and truly unusual ones. A small scratch is not an error. A discolored surface is not automatically an error. A coin that looks shiny is not automatically valuable. A missing mint mark is not automatically an error. A weak letter is not automatically a double die. A coin that weighs differently is not automatically rare. These observations are starting points for investigation, not final conclusions. The same principle applies to the famous $237 million claim. A headline can attract attention, but it is not proof. A collector should always ask for documentation. What is the exact error? Is it certified? Which professional grading service authenticated it? What is the grade? What is the auction history? What comparable coins have sold recently? Has the alleged price ever actually been paid? These questions protect collectors from misinformation. In reality, a 1979 Lincoln cent with a genuine major mint error could be worth significantly more than face value. The exact amount depends on the error and the market. A dramatic off-center strike, a major wrong planchette error, a significant double strike, or another rare mint mistake could attract serious collector attention. But the value of each coin must be established individually. Some errors are common enough that their premiums are modest. Others are rare and highly desirable. A spectacular error with strong visual appeal can generate competition among collectors. When multiple buyers want the same coin, the price can rise. The market for error coins is driven by scarcity and demand. A coin may be rare, but if collectors do not care about it, the value may remain limited. Conversely, a coin with a dramatic appearance and a recognized error type can attract strong demand. This is why the phrase rare should also be used carefully. A coin can be unusual without being rare. A coin can be rare without being extremely valuable. And a coin can be valuable because of condition even if many examples exist. The 1979 Lincoln cent demonstrates all three possibilities. The ordinary circulated coin is common. The exceptional high-grade coin can be scarce. The genuine major error can be rare. The combination of extreme rarity, exceptional condition, strong demand, and compelling visual appeal is what can create substantial value. For collectors examining a 1979 penny, one of the first things to do is identify whether it is a regular circulation strike or a proof. The surfaces of proof coins often have a distinctive appearance, with specially prepared fields and sharper details. proof coins were manufactured specifically for collectors rather than normal circulation. A 1979 South proof center may therefore deserve closer examination than a typical circulated 1979p or 1979d cent. However, the proof designation alone does not make the coin extraordinarily valuable. The coin's condition still matters. A proof coin can have hairlines, spots, haze, or other imperfections. A high-grade proof can be much more desirable than a lower-grade example. The same general principle applies to circulation strikes. Collectors also pay attention to surface preservation. Copper coins are particularly sensitive to environmental conditions. Humidity, chemicals, storage materials, and exposure to air can affect their appearance. A coin that begins with bright red surfaces may gradually darken over time. This is why original red color can be important in the grading of copper-based coins. The terms brown, and red are not simply descriptions of appearance. They can influence market value. Two coins with identical dates and mint marks can sell for very different prices if one has retained exceptional original red color and the other has become heavily brown. This is another reason why cleaning is such a bad idea. A collector may think that restoring a coin's original brightness is helpful, but artificial cleaning cannot recreate the natural original surfaces that professional collectors seek. In many cases, cleaning makes a coin less desirable. The safest storage method is to use appropriate archival quality holders or capsules designed for coins. Coins should be handled by the edges whenever possible. Fingers can leave oils and contaminants on the surfaces. If a coin is potentially valuable, professional authentication may be worthwhile. Organizations such as PCGS and NGC provide grading and authentication services, though collectors should understand that not every coin needs to be submitted. The cost of grading should be considered in relation to the potential value of the coin. A common circulated 1979 cent generally does not justify expensive professional grading. But a suspected major error, or an exceptionally high-grade coin may be a different situation. Before submitting a coin, collectors should research the submission process, fees, and the specific service needed. Professional grading can provide authentication and a standardized grade, which may increase buyer confidence. For a suspected error, attribution can be especially important. A grading service may identify the error or variety if it qualifies under the service's standards. This can help distinguish a genuine mint-made error from damage. The difference between mint-made and post-mint damage is perhaps the most important lesson for new collectors. Imagine finding a 1979 penny with a large indentation. At first glance, it may look like a struck-through error. But if the indentation has sharp edges, unusual metal displacement, or evidence of impact, it could be damage caused by another object after the coin left the mint. Similarly, a coin with a flattened edge might appear to be a broad strike. But if the deformation is uneven and shows signs of mechanical force, it may simply be damage. A true mint error should make sense within the minting process. That is why experienced collectors often think like engineers. They ask what happened during blank preparation, striking, or handling that could have created the observed feature. If the explanation does not fit the manufacturing process, the coin may not be a genuine error. This scientific approach makes coin collecting incredibly rewarding. It combines history, art, metallurgy, manufacturing, economics, and detective work. The 1979 cent is a perfect example of this combination. Its design connects it to Abraham Lincoln. Its composition connects it to the Bronze era of American coinage. Its production connects it to the massive operations of the United States Mint. Its errors, when genuine, reveal the imperfections that can occur in complex industrial manufacturing. Its condition tells the story of how it survived. Its market value reflects the decisions of collectors. And its historical significance grows with every passing year. The idea that a 1-cent coin could someday become worth a fortune is one of the most appealing ideas in coin collecting. But the truth is more nuanced. A coin does not become valuable simply because someone says it is valuable. It becomes valuable when its rarity, authenticity, condition, and desirability are recognized by the collecting community and supported by real market evidence. So, if you have a 1979 Lincoln cent in your possession, do not immediately assume it is worth $237 million. But do not throw it away either. Look at it carefully. Check the date. Look for the mint mark. Examine the reverse. Check the weight. Inspect the edge. Look for signs of an unusual strike. Compare it with known examples. Do not clean it. And if you believe you have discovered something truly unusual, seek an expert opinion. The most exciting discoveries in numismatics often begin with a simple question: what is this? That question can lead to research, comparison, authentication, and sometimes a genuine discovery. The 1979 Lincoln cent may be common in its ordinary form, but its story is not ordinary. It represents a period of American history when the nation was changing rapidly. It carries the image of Abraham Lincoln, one of America's most influential presidents. It preserves the classic Lincoln Memorial reverse designed by Frank Gasparo. It belongs to the final years of the traditional bronze composition before the major 1982 change. It was produced in enormous numbers, yet the finest surviving examples and genuine mint errors can still attract collectors. The documented market evidence gives us a much more realistic picture than sensational claims. PCGS lists a $5,463 auction record for a 1979 Philadelphia red cent in MS-68 and a $3,995 auction record for a 1979 D red cent in MS-67 plus road. These are substantial prices compared with the 1-cent face value, demonstrating that condition matters enormously, but they also show why a claim of $237 million should not be presented as a confirmed market price. The lesson is not that valuable 1979 pennies do not exist. The lesson is that the exact characteristics of the coin matter. A common 1979 cent might remain worth only a few cents. A high-grade example may bring a premium. A scarce variety may attract collectors. A dramatic authenticated error may be worth considerably more. An extraordinary combination of rarity and condition could potentially bring an impressive auction result. But the value must be established by evidence. The world of coin collecting rewards patience. A person who spends 5 minutes examining a coin may notice something unusual. A person who spends 5 hours researching it may discover what that feature actually means. A person who sends it to a qualified expert may finally learn whether it is a genuine error or simply damage. That is why the search for valuable coins is so fascinating. The treasure is not always the money. Sometimes the treasure is the discovery itself. A 1979 penny can be a small piece of metal, only 19 millimeters across and weighing about 3.11 grams, yet it can open the door to an enormous story. It can lead you into the history of Abraham Lincoln, the development of American coin design, the industrial processes of the United States Mint, the science of metallurgy, the technical details of die production, the complexities of grading, and the economics of collectibles. And perhaps that is the real reason people continue searching through old jars of pennies. They are not simply searching for money. They are searching for history. They are searching for the unusual. They are searching for the possibility that an ordinary object might contain an extraordinary story. If a 1979 cent has a genuine mint error, that story becomes even more interesting. The error becomes a record of a moment when the manufacturing process did not proceed exactly as intended. Instead of being perfectly struck and released into circulation like billions of other coins, that particular piece escaped the mint, with a mistake frozen into its metal. That mistake may have survived decades of circulation. It may have passed through countless hands. It may have traveled hundreds or thousands of miles. It may have been placed into a coin jar and forgotten. And then, decades later, someone may pick it up and notice that something is different. That is the magic of error collecting. A mint error is essentially a manufacturing accident that becomes collectible because it survived. But even within the world of errors, rarity exists on a spectrum. Some mistakes happen frequently enough that collectors encounter them regularly. Others are extremely unusual. The most desirable examples often combine dramatic visual impact with clear evidence that the error occurred during the minting process. A major off-center strike, for instance, can be immediately recognizable. A coin with a large portion of the design missing because the planchette was improperly positioned can be visually impressive. A wrong planchette error can be even more fascinating because it reveals a breakdown in the mint's normal production controls. Double strikes can also be spectacular. Imagine seeing Lincoln's portrait appear twice, with the second impression shifted away from the first. Such a coin tells a visual story of what happened inside the press. Struck through errors can reveal the presence of foreign material during the moment of impact. Die breaks can show how the tools used to create billions of coins eventually wore down or failed. Each error is a small piece of industrial history. That is why experienced collectors do not simply ask, "How much is this coin worth?" They ask, "What happened to this coin?" That question can be much more important. The answer may determine whether the coin is ordinary, damaged, unusual, or genuinely rare. And when the coin is genuinely rare, the market value can change dramatically. However, it is essential to avoid assigning a specific huge value without evidence. A claimed $237 million price should never be repeated as fact unless there is a verifiable transaction supporting it. The responsible approach is to explain that such a figure is unverified while still discussing the real potential of genuine 1979 errors. This approach makes the story more credible and more valuable to viewers. A YouTube audience interested in coin collecting deserves accurate information. Sensational headlines may attract clicks, but trustworthy information builds long-term credibility. When viewers learn how to distinguish a real error from damage, they become better collectors. They learn to inspect coins instead of blindly believing viral claims. They learn to research auction records. They learn to understand grading. They learn to protect their coins. And most importantly, they learn that every valuable coin has a reason for being valuable. For the 1979 Lincoln cent, that reason might be exceptional condition, a genuine error, a scarce variety, or a combination of several factors. The coin's weight of approximately 3.11 grams provides a useful starting point. Its diameter of approximately 19 millimeters provides another. Its plain edge provides another. Its 95% copper and 5% zinc composition identifies it as part of the traditional Bronze-era Lincoln cent series. Its date identifies it as a 1979 issue. Its mint mark can identify the production facility. Its surface color can provide clues about preservation. Its strike quality can reveal the quality of production. Its errors, if genuine, can dramatically change its collectability. And its grade can determine whether it is simply a common coin or an exceptional example. All of these factors work together. This is why a coin's value cannot be determined from a single photograph, or a simple statement like 1979 penny worth millions. The exact coin must be examined. Two 1979 pennies can look nearly identical to an inexperienced observer, but have completely different values. One might be a heavily circulated Philadelphia cent worth close to face value. Another might be an uncirculated example with strong red color. Another might be a proof coin. Another might be a rare error. Another might be a damaged coin that only appears unusual. The difference is in the details. And details are everything in numismatics. The 1979 Lincoln cent also reminds us that value is not always connected to age. Many people assume that any old coin must be valuable. But age alone does not create rarity. A coin produced in enormous quantities may remain common decades later. The 1979 cent is a perfect example. It is nearly half a century old as of 2026, but billions were made. The coin's age makes it historically interesting, but age alone does not make it rare. This is an important lesson for anyone searching through inherited collections. Do not judge coins only by how old they look. Do not judge them only by their color. Do not judge them only by the year. Look at the entire picture. A coin's value is a combination of many variables. And that is exactly what makes the search so exciting. You never know what you might find until you look. The 1979 Lincoln cent may never be a confirmed $237 million coin, but the search for a valuable 1979 cent remains worthwhile for collectors who understand what they are looking for. The real treasure may be a dramatic mint error. It may be a superbly preserved red specimen. It may be a rare variety. It may be a proof with an unusual characteristic. Or it may simply be the historical enjoyment of holding a coin that was made nearly 50 years ago and realizing how much the world has changed since that moment. A 1-cent coin can survive decades. People do not. Technologies change. Cities change. Currencies change. But a coin can remain. That is why numismatics is more than collecting metal. It is collecting time. And when you hold a 1979 Lincoln cent in your hand, you are holding a tiny artifact from the United States of the late 20th century. Perhaps it was struck at Philadelphia. Perhaps it came from Denver. Perhaps it was produced as a proof at San Francisco. Perhaps it was perfectly struck. Perhaps it left the mint with a mistake. Perhaps it was carried in a pocket for years. Perhaps it was stored away immediately. Perhaps it was forgotten. And perhaps, after all these years, it has finally found someone curious enough to look closely. That curiosity is where every coin discovery begins. So the next time you see a 1979 penny, do not automatically dismiss it because it is only 1 cent. Pick it up. Look at the date. Look at the mint mark. Study Lincoln's portrait. Examine the lettering. Turn it over. Study the Lincoln Memorial. Look at the edge. Check the weight if something seems unusual. Compare the coin with trusted references. And remember that the most important question is not whether someone on the internet claims the coin is worth $237 million. The important question is what the coin actually is. If it is ordinary, it is still a piece of American history. If it is high grade, it may be collectible. If it has a genuine error, it may be much more interesting. If it is a rare and authenticated error in exceptional condition, then you may have discovered something genuinely special. But the truth must come before the excitement. The real world of coin collecting is not built on exaggerated numbers. It is built on evidence. It is built on history. It is built on authentication. It is built on condition. It is built on rarity. It is built on collector demand. And it is built on the thrill of discovery. That is the true story of the 1979 Lincoln cent. A tiny coin. A huge history. A fascinating design. A traditional bronze composition. A massive production run. Potential mint errors. Interesting varieties. Different levels of condition. and a collector market that can turn the right example into something far more interesting than its 1 cent face value. The next time you search through your change, remember that you are not just looking for a coin worth millions. You are looking for a story. And sometimes, the story is worth far more than the coin itself.